3D6 down the line. All right, episode 39/40 in the books.
No, episode 39.
Yep.
So is this where we dangle David like over the hole and see if we catch some baboons?
No, this is where I use my my push action and just domino all of you into it and turn around and leave. I brought an offer in for Gerrilad.
Is this where David gets to say his I told you so sort of thing?
I mean, this is the plan. This is what we were supposed to do, right? Like, I mean,
yeah, this is what we expected.
Right. We went down the hallway. We found
Is it? I'm sorry, but is it? Was the plan to make the loudest entrance possible into the army of apes?
Well, we haven't actually made the loudest. We weren't loud. We were bright. And you're the human. You're the one who needs the lantern light.
I can see in the dark now.
I have a question. Were there any? Do we have any known ways of getting there secretly that we discussed at length were significant for any chance of our survival to show up secretly and get in quick and get out quick? Was that ever a conversation that maybe happened on the Discord for weeks, perhaps?
No, I don't remember that.
Never. No, I don't think so. Okay. Well, then there's no I told you so. Then.
I mean, I definitely remember we had other options.
Right.
But I thought we agreed on this cave entrance. And
I mean, the pyramid way was basically off the table for us because they probably know we bounced in and out of there for the Isocritus assassination, right? So then we have the secret area, by the spaceship and stuff, and we thought about that, but that seemed like a lot of rehashing of tunnels that we've already been through. And
to be fair, David did actually suggest finding the other entrance he's convinced existed in Broken Head.
That's true.
That
we don't know that we didn't know that would go down here anyway. Hey, we didn't know it happened, right? So a couple of things we discovered on this delve, right? We discovered the huge amount of money, which is fantastic.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yay, money.
We discovered that there is an actual secret entrance underneath Kronos's inn, which you suspected, David, but we didn't know. And it's not like Matt went down there and found it. He was the only one who snuck down there and he looked for it, right? Yeah. So it's probably the wine cask, right? It's got to be the empty wine cask.
No. There's something in the stables that we haven't checked out yet.
Okay. But we hadn't confirmed it. And so then we literally thought the conversation literally was Gerrilad was very upset about the way Guelph and his companions got in here. He's got we thought some super secret experiment going on down here with mushrooms. And so we wanted to go check it out and see what it was. Yeah, so I don't know, man. This is not a bad thing, David. I don't know
I'm still very confident in this as like an exploratory thing. Absolutely.
Look,
and if there's
a chance to
not
fight monkeys, that was going to happen. We are never not going to fight them.
I'm a little confused about the conversation that's happening right now. I feel like there's are we discussing whether it was worth? I'm confused. It's fine.
What I was pointing at, not when I was joking about David saying "I told you so."
Yeah.
My thing was just saying that I don't want to give anything away. It's just more.
Please, go right ahead.
No, it's you should be asking yourselves if there are baboons directly below. Why are they so quiet? That's the question.
Sure.
Why are they so quiet? Yes. So the thing that the central concern that I expressed, which is why I was proposing using the mosaic room, was that, which is why at the start of the session, the first information we got was that 6 days had passed and that in almost all probability Isocritus's body had been found, was that the quickest means, if we thought it was a concern that we'd be ratted out, to calling that information leak was going the way we knew, because we could do it in like 5 hours. Right. And going the way that he did not know existed, which was the mosaic entrance, because only we knew it. Right. And that was if there was any probability, and he was still in his room and he didn't know Isocritus was dead yet. So if there was any probability that we were going to go in and staunch the wound of Isocritus's body's discovery, which was a big party concern, it was doing that as efficiently as possible. We got a lot, to your point, we got a lot of really valuable stuff out of this that I do not regret. But if the objective was not waiting too long, or giving Gerrilad the opportunity to fortify his position, knowing we would return, which is what John just hinted at us. We have failed at that because now there's probably an army that's covering every entrance to this place, waiting for someone to come fuck with them. And we do not have the power to engage with that, in my mind, because we are just a few guys.
Yeah.
I think
we will not succeed at a frontal assault. We should leave.
No, you're right. And I'm actually not opposed to that idea because, but I would say so we know that Isocritus was connected with Lady Alexia, but we do not know that Gerrilad was connected with Lady Alexia. And I think it's highly probable that Isocritus had been charmed by Gerrilad and Lady Alexia was wondering what happened to him, kind of thing. But that's just a guess. So hold on.
No, we know for certain that's not the case. We 100% know that's not the case. Because we know that Lady Alexia specifically wanted the information that Isocritus was actively researching because it would secure her seat of power in this entire ecosystem, which means it's the single important thing that she's interested in, and she hired the single most reliable wizard to do so.
Not disputing that.
And the person assisting him is Gerrilad. Now, to jump to the conclusion that Gerrilad isn't necessarily connected to Alexia takes a lot more effort because Isocritus is reporting in to them through her guards on a regular basis. So she knows Gerrilad exists 100%. And she's in cahoots with Gerrilad 100%, which means the minute we found out that information, 100% in cahoots. If she is permitting Isocritus to work with Gerrilad, then she is in cahoots with Gerrilad. We cannot jump to a logical assumption otherwise.
You can't.
Why would you permit that?
Because Gerrilad charms Isocritus and says, tell Lady Alexia you found the library, you're working hard, but don't mention me. You know, you're really going to be working for me, but you need
optimism.
No, I don't agree with that.
Known as like the most powerful wizard in the region, and a druid charmed him and is having him do what the wizard was already going to be doing. That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. No. And I say this with love. Doesn't make any sense.
Well, I want to point out
that's us praying that our circumstance isn't as bad as it is.
Well, I want to point something out too, which is given the time pressure, right? I think that the error that we made, the crucial error, is the biggest chunk of time that we've spent not doing anything directly related to this, which was, and we all agreed to this, so I'm not saying that this was a bad call, but we all decided, it's worth spending like 4 days at the inn, reading books and getting spells. Right.
Because when it comes down to it, the delves that we've done have been 2 days, day 1 and day 2. That's it.
Right.
Yeah, but again, this was a discussion we had with John, and he made it pretty clear that we were pushing it just by doing that.
Sure.
So any additional time decisions we make on top of that, like he basically was like, you could maybe get away with that, but that's really pushing it. Yeah. And then we decided to do things that added another like 5 days to that timeline.
I mean,
I don't think so.
I do not regret you having a spell book and having time to go sit down and get all the spells. Yeah, that was a total good use of our time. It was a use of our time, David. Did you want to try and take on Gerrilad without any spells? Because that's what it was.
It was. I'm saying, it was totally worth that. It was totally worth that. But I still think that, treasure aside, it was also worth trying to find this additional way in case we needed another way out. And I think definitely the move here is to kite or run away or do some attrition on these guys that are here with us now, make our way out, go up, and then go back for the assault with him through those mosaic tunnels, which was always kind of the plan, really.
And let's say he is. It doesn't matter whether there's cahoots with Alexia. I mean, there's no evidence that there's been any kind of army imported. Where's he going to get one? He's not going to make more baboons. He might consolidate his position. He might pull his baboons back and surround himself with baboons. But I'd be really shocked if he had suddenly a huge army down there.
Well, he already had a huge army. But here's what I'll say. I feel like the impression you guys have is that I'm just negging that we made those decisions. I am not. What I'm making clear is that our options are different than what we're assuming they are now. So
Well, that's possibly true.
Attacking Gerrilad at all at this point is probably a bad idea if we know he's connected to Alexia and he's ready for us, because we will both not be able to kill him. And now he's probably affiliated with someone who we do not want to piss off more than we already have. So trying to do an and he probably knows it's us. So before, we weren't sure that anyone knew I killed ISO, right? I killed ISO. The thing we wanted to staunch was that information getting out. Once that information gets out, we have leverage against us. People know that I have done a bad thing. So giving up upon that, doing more bad things against Gerrilad, gets us worse factional relationships with the most important person there. So what I'm getting at is not, oh, we shouldn't have just done all these things. What I'm getting at is, by choosing to do these things, which were valuable things, we've also fundamentally changed the objective of what we should be doing with Gerrilad, which is not killing him anymore. It would fuck us to kill him right now, because we've already pissed off Alexia enough. What we should be doing is groveling to her, saying I fucked up, or some version of that, right? Or regrouping in a way that can get another faction on our side, because we have no allies, right? We should be going to the Setites and being like, Alexia is coming for us now, guys. Oh fuck, or whatever, right?
One foundational assumption, though, that a lot of that is predicated on is you are making that leap to say that Gerrilad is connected with Alexia. It's totally fine to go down that path of logic, but just remember that it's based upon a presumption.
Right.
I 100% think that's fair.
Yeah.
Can I make a point? Number one, Gerrilad fucked up when he locked us up, tortured us, cut off a hand. I'm sorry. That's what set this whole thing off.
Well,
right?
the hand,
Hey.
So that's number one. Number two, I don't think that our relationship with Alexia, even David, if you have everything down the line, like correct, right? Yeah. It's not insurmountable. I don't think that dude knows our names, right? Our party has changed drastically since we got captured by him, right? So
that's true.
They might have some descriptions of us. So it's a dwarf and it's a goblin. And I'm like, okay, cool. But he doesn't know that I'm Goran Blackhood, the dwarf from like blah, blah, blah. He doesn't know any of that shit. And then 3, you're acting like we don't have anything to offer Alexia. She wants the regalia because it solidifies her power, right?
Sure. Yep.
We have other things to offer her that will help her solidify her power, i.e. 80,000 gold pieces worth of shit buys her a lot of army, right?
And that research, those books that we have with the clues to lead us there.
And the fact that Isocritus was her expert. Isocritus died in a pool of blood on the floor. We're your experts now, bitch. You know what I'm saying? It's like we have things to offer.
All of things. Of course, we have things to offer. What I'm getting at is those things are also requiring us to reevaluate our approach here. Like John said, I can't know exactly what Gerrilad's relationship is with Alexia. I'm making some educated guesses that I think are more educated than assuming that there's no consequence to them. And I would say that, yes, we can approach her, but we are not approaching her from a position of power. It does not mean it's a bad thing, but this is generating a new sort of angle in which we are like, hey, does she know we killed him? Probably. Honestly, probably. It's thinking that Gerrilad couldn't figure out who we are is like a pretty big stretch, given that we are screaming our names everywhere we go around town, and we've entered and exited these places several times, and we're one of the most known adventuring parties, the Broken Head, who we are now very, very loud about. This is we are not a stealthy group, right? We are making our presence known to every person that we encounter, right?
Why don't we frame Roger the Rapier?
Why do you hate Roger?
All of these are options, except for the fact that Gerrilad has seen us. He imprisoned us. He knows who we are. Which is
he never interviewed any of us.
Dude, oh my God!
He never interviewed any of us.
How circular that is, though. I'm not trying to be annoying. You are looking for a reason not to have
the only human henchman that he had was Niall. Niall came with us. Oh, Niall's actually a weak link now. We might have to kill him.
But Gerrilad watched us kick his door down and try to rush him, dude. He saw all of us before we fled. He's seen our faces multiple times. There's no mystery about who we are, at least visually.
Right.
Can we bring up the fact that Matt wanted to parley with him, and maybe that's our best option now?
It could be.
It could be. I mean, here's like another like take, right? We of course we don't know what these relationships are, but here's in my mind, here's another likely scenario. Isocritus was hired, down by Lady Alexia to find this stuff. He's seasoned. He knows what to do. He came down here, partnered with Gerrilad to get to the library, so she doesn't have any knowledge. This is Isocritus doing his job, right?
Exactly.
He came down here. He built the relationship to be able to do that. So what does that mean, right? So Gerrilad might, like, if I were him, like what I would have done was, like send word, not directly, because I don't think he really leaves this much. Send word directly with our descriptions, like, once he finds out, hey, these guys killed Isocritus, right? Like there may very well be a bounty for us there, but I don't think it goes as far as like him calling up Alexia on the Druid phone and saying, hey, here are these guys and here's their address, and but I think that, I think it's a good chance that there's some of that floated out there. But by that same token, that means that that's something that we can call into question, perhaps, right? Like if we find that out, yeah.
Absolutely. To your point, like it's very feasible that Isocritus was wise enough to find the crazy person in Plunger Town and make a deal with him and use him for his own means for the benefit of Alexia. We know that Isocritus definitely reported Gerrilad's existence to Alexia because Isocritus was reporting things to Alexia every couple days. So he was there. There's with that, we can reasonably assume that but that does not mean Gerrilad knows about Alexia.
Right. Quick interjection. We don't know that Isocritus reported anything truthfully.
Why would he be hired? Why would he be hired by her if he was going to lie to her though the entire? You know what I mean? They're like, I'm not saying I know exactly why, but like that's a very convenient thing to like the most. All I'm getting at with all of this is we shouldn't assume the most convenient outcome, because that is really running into like the 5e assumption of the world kind of morphs around our success rather than like what we do having concrete consequences that may kill us. That's going very pessimistic
not what's
with
happening in this universe. We have nothing but experience about real consequences to our actions.
Of course,
I'm not making any convenient assumptions.
Well,
but
I think
I could just tell you from my from on high, from the referee's perspective, like you should the smart play is to assume that Isocritus has contact. I've telegraphed. I'm not giving anything away. I'm not spoiling anything. Like I've told you that he has come out of that secret entrance. That he has likely met with the robed people in the West Gate, whatever you determined to conclude from that. And it's on record that he was hired in secret but you know that the major domo of Lady Alexia has reported that he was hired. So you should just work under the assumption that Isocritus was reporting to Lady Alexia one way or the other. And you also heard directly, too, that Isocritus and Gerrilad had both surmised correctly, just based upon deducing, like a detective, basically, that it was you that had caused all this disruption in Plunger Town. Right. Like, they know that. Like, that means, and you witnessed them know that. So Gerrilad knows that, right? So if Gerrilad knows that you disrupted Plunger Town, and then on top of that, when he assumes you are making the assumption that in the past 6 days that he's discovered Isocritus was assassinated,
right?
Then you just have to extrapolate out what he would have done in that situation, right? Knowing that he is paranoid, that he has this egress point through these tunnels, right? And knowing that there are other egress points as well. And just kind of working through your head, what would he likely do? And that's basically the answer to your question about how you want to approach things.
He's fully fortified. He's fully fortified, this place.
He would put spiders in a pit.
He's fully fortified.
In a cave and lizards in a pool.
Yeah.
He has everyone on high alert. He's not going to be snuck up on easily. And for that same reason, like, again, he's like a raving paranoid individual, regardless of his connections. I don't think like negotiation is a reasonable expectation from his personality type without really, really big incentives. In the same way that like Kronos rejected us and Kronos likes us. And all we wanted to do is to co-invest in the end. We are thinking that we have a huge bartering power with the guy that like we assassinated his coworker, you know, and have like fucked his shit up constantly for weeks. He's not going to be coming from a place of like, I'm really ready to make friends and meet these guys in the middle. And that's what I mean when I'm saying we're making assumptions. It's not that those aren't really good ideas. It's that we've made too many decisions to make those ideas impossible or possible anymore in my mind.
Right.
Now you can disagree with me. What I'm saying is like every decision we've made along the way has solidified the range of possibilities, and operating as if we are still at a full range of possibilities instead of a very, very finite range of possibilities is the mistake in a scenario like this. And so what we have to do is go, oh shit, what do we actually have on the table? And if what we think we have on the table is informed by speculation that's really beneficial to us and really, really statistically unlikely, it's probably not a good thing to pursue, right? That's what I'm getting at with this. We should instead look at like the most probable, even if pessimistic thing, and work backwards from that and see maybe we could like wiggle out a little better X, Y, or Z from that. But like, I don't think it's and hence me also saying like maybe we just back up from the Gerrilad situation a little bit. If we know he's fully defensed and we're not going to be able to kill him, you know.
I was just going to suggest we go back to Spaceship Town.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe we write an apology. Sorry.
let me pitch this.
Yeah.
I mean, so I'm coming around, David. Your argument makes sense that even though I'm not convinced the most pessimistic situation is the case,
and I'm not saying I'm right,
operating as if it is seems like a prudent course of action. Okay.
Sure.
But that leads me to suggest either A, the only options that let me back up. It leads me to suggestion the only options are A, we try and kill him because he's not going to parley. Okay. B, we avoid the situation entirely and say, forget it. Let's just stick to parts where he doesn't go. Let's go see the spaceship. Also not bad, but you're not wrong. If we're doing that one, we should have picked that 3 days ago. Or C, we're, you know, let's face it, we're kind of crazy adventurers, you know, let's just keep pushing until something breaks.
Right? Which I'm down for. You know, it's me, baby. It's me. You know, I'm down for that.
That's what we do.
Yeah. Right? Just do it. I'm totally down for that too. Just do it. Like you said, Ted, like do it knowingly. You know what I mean?
Let's keep going in tunnels. Let's keep digging around. Let's find some more gold, kill some more spiders. And sooner or later, our numbers are up or we keep on going.
The key attitude to have with that, which I'm totally down for, I'm not pushing it. I'm just saying because that is the most dangerous, obviously, is that you cannot be precious about your characters. So if survival is a big priority for you, which it's totally legitimate, that's fine. Then that is not the route.
Well, and this is the thing. I think this is what a little bit of the disconnect in our conversation is with what my incentive is when I'm talking to you guys about this stuff. Because I have the least death fear of any of us. I think it's fair to say. And I'm excited about trying the most risky things. But I'm very aware at how connected we've become to our characters. And it is proof by the fact that every time we get loot, we want to rush back to town to level as fast as possible. And we get very excited about that. We do not want to finish a task without going back and leveling and becoming more powerful, which is an attachment behavior. It makes sense. Ostensibly, it's about being safer and more powerful, but it's also about being really connected to that thing, right? Mm-hmm. And that means to me that, like, my role as David in this group, as the pessimist, is to be like, if we care about surviving, this is going to fuck up that opportunity, potentially, which is why I'm being really conservative all the time instead of being like the chaotic guy that I was earlier in the game. Not because of like how I would play my character at all, but because I'm trying to detect what we want out of those characters. And if we want to just fucking go for it, baby, I'm down to go for it. You know that. You know I'm down to go for it.
I want to see what's in the hole.
For it, baby. Yeah.
What's down in the hole, man?
I'm fine. Like if that's what happens, that's what happens. My only point about that is why running back to town. This is the advantage to Arden Fool being like an OSE game. When we first started, everything was like way up here on us, right? Those guys' levels haven't changed. We're just starting to catch up a little bit, right? Which is why we can have a fight with a spider and not be like, oh shit, like we did for levels 1 and 2, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So we are only now hitting that sweet spot of like mid-level, like whatever, where we can play a little bit faster and looser, maybe, you know? So that's kind of my only thing, right? Like, I mean, it's not survival of Gorand per se. It's survival of the overall party power.
Yeah, it's the party power that I'm interested in preserving.
It's the 25,000 experience points that, and again, I get it.
Go Matt. Sorry.
Well, I was just thinking, right? Like, and this is kind of been like, if we're talking strategy and like why I think it's actually good that we did this, and it's good what we've poked, right, and what we've found, because this was the very obvious end of this path. There was no way that I saw us going to do this and trying to make the connection that didn't probably end with, oh, here's some monkeys in our face. Right. I mean, that's where we were going, and that was our goal, is to try to connect things. But if we're able, and again, like, survival, we will or we won't, but whatever. The goal, at least what I was thinking, is that if we make it to this and probe the edge a little bit, right, it reinforces for the paranoid guy, that what he's doing and having his forces spread out, like guarding all of these exits and stuff that he knows about, is a really smart thing, right? Like, we've just poked one of the holes that he knows about and we know about. So we poked the defense. Maybe we get out, maybe we die, whatever. But what it does is it reinforces how strategically valuable that secret back door into his throne room is that he doesn't know about. Because right now he has guys, and this is going to be like, oh yeah, I'm doing the right thing. Like, more forces around these, around these exits.
Gotcha.
Opens the opportunity. We've also immobilized him.
Yeah, right.
Like, if he's in defense mode, he's locked up, man. He's lost the initiative, right? We can stay flexible and keep poking the bear.
And then either doing that, or when we do decide, and I want to do it. Like, I'm so itching right now to get that disco ball set. And, I've got a plan for like his next level, right? If we make it, Av has, access to like continual light. We can have that disco ball lit up, ready to go. We don't have to, it doesn't matter what time of day it is or whatever. If we can get that to
probably just lower it down the well if we want
guys, the only way the disco ball works is both installing the disco ball and reorienting every mirror across multiple junctures in this place, which requires us to not be in a high alert scenario where he has an army of apes patrolling. So we would have to not have him increase, but decrease his defenses for that to work.
But where are these? I'm sorry.
A logistical point for that, just because it might affect your decision, is that the disco ball is maneuverable, but almost all of the mirrors that you come across are set in place.
Okay.
So if we get the disco ball in place, then bang, it lights up.
Huge. I thought we had to move the mirrors as well.
And see, that was one of the things. Like, one of the ideas that we floated around was having, bringing a tripod for that disco ball with us when we go. Because we know that there were pieces of a thing down there, but it's going to take some time to set that up. But if we're able to get this thing set up real quick.
You also have to be able to defend it.
Yeah.
I do want to.
I know that you love the continual light thing, but we don't know that that's actually bright enough to impact the apes, right? Because continual light is not necessarily daylight. Other editions had an actual daylight spell. I don't know. Yeah. So I don't know.
You do know too that when you first approach the well of light, that you know that the depression where the disco ball would have normally been was covered with like baboon shit and detritus and stuff like that. Like they didn't like it, right? Like they wanted to cover it up. So it's a known exit. Like they know what that thing can do. So just be aware that if you're thinking about like exits that may have been, if he's super paranoid, that sort of thing. Just kind of keep it in mind.
Fair. Yeah.
To sort of focus the attention, like your immediate issue, of course, is that you've got baboons directly below you. If you want to push forward with your whole grand scheme of disco ball or attacking or parlaying with Gerrilad or trying to link up the map, like that this is going to debouche somewhere in baboon areas, right? But you still have no idea really where, right?
Which means we can't do it. Yeah.
So you still have an immediate problem of baboons that likely know that you're there. And do you feel that you are at the level, like Mike was saying, that you could handle a group of baboons? Are they just baboons? Is there a forearm down there? That's like your immediate issue. That's a real big problem to overcome.
And this is where the Gerrilad wand is a fucking game changer, right? If you blast those guys with two of those things, right? Sorry, Gary. Yeah, the David wand now. 2 blasts of that clears out a hallway. Even if they all make their fucking saves, they're still taking like 18 points of damage per shot. That's a game changer. That's an encounter winner.
I totally agree. I want to pull us back. Sorry, I want to pull us to the macro again, though, because I feel like we're going adrift from what I was trying to say a little bit, which is that we're discussing the efficacy of how to raid still, rather than whether raiding should happen at all anymore.
You're right. I shouldn't. Yeah.
And that doesn't mean I don't like the disco ball and all these ideas. But if like to rewind to like everyone said, well, we don't care about the party survival. We care about the world. The significant thing here is, what is the world state that we are leaving if we TPK? That is the only important thing, not the loot, not anything. What is the world state we're living? If for instance, worst case scenario, the burning head is in shambles, Gerrilad's on full defense, the goblins have overrun the first floor of the debouchement, and we are no longer people they agree with. How easy is it for first level adventurers to do anything? How hard was it us in a fairly neutral and balanced state to do these things? How much harder will it be with new characters if things really go to shit?
And that's why I didn't say party survival doesn't matter. I said individual doesn't matter.
No, I know the set was individual doesn't matter, but like the party state does. And what I'm suggesting is the party state isn't even the issue. It's the world state. The world state is the most significant aspect to us playing and succeeding. So the question has to be, whether it be factions or geographic or anything else, how is our party making a following party, if we are diving into it more aggressively, more capable of adventuring or less capable of adventuring? What have we concretely gained as players that make that next run, and this like Dark Soulsian sort of analogy maybe, easier than the last? Or will it be harder? And if it's going to be harder, how can we redirect our objectives to make sure that's not the case? Because that's what's going to make us less precious about our characters. It's what's going to make us more risk-taking in our endeavors, et cetera, because we're going to know, well, we've like secured X, Y, or Z, right? Go ahead, Ted. Sorry.
I don't disagree with that at all. Your assessment, I think, is accurate, but I would counter it by saying, like, if the world gets harder, it's still fun to play in.
100%.
Right? Like, okay, our party dies, all the power factions are all messed up, and a couple of, brand new newbie fighters and wizards show up, and they're all first level, and it's still going to be fun to play in, and it's going to be interesting, and it'll be different, and there's going to be things that are harder. I mean, metagaming a little bit, it would be no fun for John to make it impossible for us to succeed based on what the previous party did. So yes, there's going to be new challenges and different challenges, but it'll still be interesting. So there isn't really a worst case scenario, except for John says, well, that's it. You fucked Arden, and I'm closing the whole thing.
No,
no,
that's a legitimate.
I'm not saying this as sorry, go Jeff. Good job.
I was going to say it's a legitimate end of the campaign. I'm just going to extrapolate out what I think the natural reactions would be to things happening, and if that means that Arden Vul becomes shut to adventurers, like it's too difficult, then that's the end of Arden Vul, and we move on to something else. You know what I mean? That could that could very well happen. That's how I'm going to play it. It's such a relief off my mind. It's like I don't have to worry about Yeah.
Wait a minute.
No, I mean not the end of the campaign. I just mean I just have to sit back and just react to what I think would naturally happen, and then the conclusions just sort of happen on their own.
It's fair.
Can I make one more point about Gerrilad? That I think his biggest enemy right now is attrition. Okay. So say there are 15 monkeys down there. John has already said numerous occasions that he has whole charts of attrition and what happens to certain factions should they become weaker, right? How many monkeys do we have to engage with in order to kick that in? Right now, Gerrilad might very well be like, I'm covered. I've got all my entrances covered. These guys are fucking mincemeat if they come into my area. Until we blast a shitload of them, right? Like, say we get lucky in a couple encounters. Say you use that wand a bunch of times and you take out 15, 20 of those damn monkeys, right? Say he loses any one of the big 4-arm guys. Does his attitude change at that point? Does he become more open to talking, realizing that we are not little fuckabouts that run in and poke him in the ass and then run away? So does he still need to find somebody who can help him retrieve the regalia? Is that a mission point for him? Because if he doesn't have ISO anymore to help him with that retrieval of the regalia, does he still need it? Or is Lady Alexia like being like, all right, you have the contract now since Isocritus is dead. Yeah. We could be the retrieval party. I'm just saying is there's probably other ways to play this, David. It doesn't always have to be A or B equals C. There might be something that we can offer this guy or from a position of strength that lets us move forward with this plot line, right? Like,
I agree, but I want to point out that not once have I simply suggested A plus B equals C.
I know
what
you
I've done is
I'm being reductive,
crafted multiple. What I'm trying to suggest is that we don't want to be reactive. Would be a way of putting it. We want to be proactive.
Yeah, so I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be reductive on your points. I'm just saying is like you have like two very strong ideas of it's either going to go this way or it's going to go this way, but we might be able to find some wiggle room and find a third way.
There's always possibility for a third way. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, and honestly, the reason why like I floated this like, hey, maybe there's some way to talk to him is the key piece of information that we're missing here is we have no idea what he wants, right? We know he's incredibly paranoid. We know that he is very defensive, but what does he want, right?
I think he wants the regalia. I think he charmed Isocritus to look for it for him and just lie to Lady Alexia.
You should.
No way. I'm pretty sure that the way charm works is the smarter the person is, the more saving throws they get to make, right? So
maybe he'd be saving it like every 2 days or something like that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You should judge if Gerrilad represents a faction. You should judge Gerrilad's actions up to this point and what you know about Gerrilad compared to other factions that you have interacted with. How aggressive is he in expanding his power? Or consolidating his power, defending what he wants, versus what the Plumthorns did, what the Goblins are doing, what Dalton's Darlings, what the Setites, that you know about them. You should kind of take that all into account. We should probably wrap this up because I know we all got to get to bed and I got to get to work editing this. Yeah. But I'll leave this with this minor thing, but it might be more and more important to you now, is because egresses and stuff like that have become more and more important, obviously important to Gerrilad, becoming more and more important to you. It might be a good idea to start a spreadsheet where you list every known level and then list the known points of entrances and exits or what you suspect and stuff like that. Like I know that you have them filtered throughout your notes, but it might be a good idea just to have like a list so that you can like you can easily parse like what your options are as far as like entering into the halls as things get more and more complicated.
I do have that actually.
Oh, you do? Okay.
It probably could use some updating, but I do have that.
Okay, cool.
Well, David, if we TPK, we know where we can find 80,000 experience points.
There you go.